Hello, my loves. It's time once more for a story. A fantastical tale. From r/Neckbeard Stories. And from Reddit user Similar Percentage 3. We gotta do both there. This is my neckbeard cousin that once tried to date me. Sweet home Alabama indeed. Let's get right into it, shall we? First time posting here, but I got a doozy that I've been holding on to for a number of years. My neckbeard story comes from my high school days, in the late 90s. You're just going to start giving me flashbacks now, aren't you? I'm feeling it. No, it's okay. We didn't actually have many neckbeards, only about 12 out of all 4 years going there, and most of them were pretty decent people. Kind of weird, kind of smelly, but overall okay. But then there's the star of this story. He was like King Neckbeard. Short, fat, he would explain to you that he's husky in a condescending voice. Scraggly facial hair that mostly grew on his neck/double chin regions. Fashion sense wasn't too weird, but we lived in the South in the 90s, so you didn't get much more risque than the anime stuff going on. Mostly Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon shirts, and or weird too-tight polos and jeans. Stinky with a layer of Old Spice. You know, the old man kind. I resent that. I wear Old Spice. Just to add that touch of basement goblin. How dare you. Now I have to add that he was my cousin. Remember this part. It's very important later on. This isn't a story about a one-time ordeal. No, this is a recounting of some of the bullshit this fucker pulled while we were in school. To start off, I'm a grade ahead of him. I had one whole year before he came into school and miladied his way into notoriety, squeezing himself into my friend group and holding on for dear life until he found a few incels that worshipped him. We had been in the same elementary school as well, but he mostly kept to himself, and he wasn't so bad back then. We would talk once in a while until my last year there. I can only assume that he thought to ingrain himself so that he would have someone he knew next year. But this was about the time that his neckbeard tendency started. He was constantly harassing my female friends, asking for dates as well as feel-ups. Yeah, you read that right. God, I wish I hadn't. So, as you can imagine, my freshman year was awesome. No neckbeard cousin, no creepy stalker talking about how he learned to please a woman by watching softcore porn on HBO at night. Oh my god. No forcing me into talking about Pokemon or Sailor Moon. Mind you, I'm a fan of Sailor Moon and DBZ, but this boy was already writing hentai porn about them and trying to make me read it and critique it. I remember when that was a very huge crossover in the old fanfiction.net days. Yes, I am that old. Shut up. And no more smelling that weird mix of mayo, stale farts, grandpa cologne, and old jizz sock. You really have a way with words. So yeah, I'm excited. I get a year without him, and it lulled me into a sense of false security, making the next year all the more worse. Sophomore year rolls around, and at my school they put the freshmen and the sophomores together in the gym until we're all sorted into our homerooms. So there I sit, myself and my friends, talking, catching up about the summer, when a shadow falls over me, and a few others too. I look up, and there he is in all his glory. For any of you that are older and remember a certain SNL character from back then called It's Pat, yes, I remember, please insert that image here. We shall now refer to him as Turtlebeard, or TB for short. Apparently, over the summer, he had gained a significant amount of weight, causing his neck to almost disappear between his shoulders and head, like a turtle hiding in its shell. The beginnings of a white trash goatee were starting, scraggly and patchy over his oily face, and also consisting of 3 different colors. Never trust a man with a multicolored beard, kids. Red, blonde, and brown. He was a brunette. He wore a shirt with a half-naked woman on the front proclaiming, "Mustaches are handlebars." Boy, what? The smell came next, causing one of my friends to gag and cover her face with her shirt. "I see you saved me a seat," TB said, squishing his way between me and another one of my friends, smelling like he had shat himself right before he joined us that morning. This, in turn, caused several of the people around me to move away, looking between me and this strange turtle man, wondering just what the hell was going on. Knowing he wouldn't be leaving anytime soon, I begrudgingly introduced him to everyone, subtly trying to use my notebook to fan his stench away. The people behind us did not appreciate this. I just sat back and watched the disaster begin after this. Within 10 minutes, he had offended every friend I had. Grabbed one's tit, lovely, and he asked another 3 of them out. He began to get upset at their blatant disrespect for him, and he loudly told me that I needed to find better friends. Ones that didn't think they were better than everyone. Oh my god. After that, he stood up, wafting his stink around as he marched away, blessedly going to harass someone else. Everything was more or less the same after that for a while. He'd harass girls he liked, he got sent to the office a few times for inappropriate touching, and was on a constant hunt for a quote-unquote, a fuck buddy. Classy. Follow up the next year, and TB had grown even more confident. The newest influx of freshmen unfortunately included some very naive girls, the type that have low self-esteem and are willing to do anything to have someone want them. I am by no means making fun of them. I watched what these girls went through with his nasty ass and tried to tell them that they were worth a lot more than that. And while some listened, most did not, until after he had hurt them. God, this is starting to make me angry. 3rd day of my junior year, he finds me sitting outside for lunch, swaggering over to my table with the grace of a drunken hippo. 2 incels following him like puppies. These boys lived vicariously through TB, which is a sad thing all on its own. Hey, he called, waving a stubby hand at me jauntily. He plopped down, making the prior picnic table bow under the weight. So, I've got news, he began, waggling his eyebrows. I gave an inward sigh, making sure not to breathe through my nose. What? I deadpanned, eyeing the 2 boys behind him and making them squirm. He followed my gaze, waving a hand flippantly. That's Dabe and Dabe, he said as an introduction, turning back to me, looking miffed that he had been interrupted. Anyway, guess what? He said, leering at me. I got a girlfriend. Shock resonated through me, wondering what poor girl he had scarred into dating him. Had he been sneaking into the special ed classes? I wasn't sure, but I was kind of scared that he had. That's extra horrifying. Oh, that's wonderful, TB, I said, sounding worried. He rolled his eyes, smiling greasily. Now, don't sound so jealous. I'll still make time for my favorite cousin. He chuckled, patting me on the shoulder. Giving him a look of disbelief, and feeling my stomach churn at his words, I moved further away from him as he began telling me of his new girlfriend, who we'll call Yoda, because that's exactly who she looked like. Suddenly, it made sense in a sad way. This was a sweet and quiet girl who was bullied a lot for her looks and her height, and one who would latch onto the first guy that looked her way. Making a note to myself to talk to her later, I listened to his story of him wooing her, his words, not mine. Ohing and awing at all the right times. Until he began joking about what all he thought he could get her to do. Just a reminder, this is the same guy that was writing incest fanfics in 7th grade.
Oh no!
Stories and extremely graphic stuff. Oh, that's fucking vile. So you can imagine what he talked about, even if it was slightly censored, because I was there. I went off on him. I'm telling him not to be so disgusting, and that Yoda probably wouldn't appreciate him saying that he'd let his friends have a go at her too.
Kill him. Kill him now.
The incels immediately quieted, a look of quiet hatred coming over their faces as I told off their leader. But TB just shrugged, laughing a bit and saying that it was just guys talking, and I had no need to worry, not taking offense to what I had said. He did that a lot. The bell rang, giving me a reason to escape, and after waving him off when he proposed walking me to class, I hurried inside, looking around for Yoda. I didn't find her until last period, seeing her in the restroom. I'd hoped she would listen to me, watching her light up as I called her name, and feeling bad that she had been caught up with him. I introduced myself and explained that I'm TB's cousin. Watching her blush and smile, she gushed about how much of a nice guy he was, but I hushed her and asked her to let me tell her a few things. She listened, eyes welling up as I explained the conversation we had at lunch, but knowing it wouldn't make a difference. And sure enough, I was right. She told me that she appreciated me looking out for her and that she would be careful, but that she'd give him a while to see if he would change. I felt like banging my head against the wall. She thanked me, giving me a sudden hug before making her way out of the restroom and leaving me to worry about her even more. That poor, poor girl. It took a week before she found me again, crying as she told me I was right, and that I had pressured her into having sex with him over the weekend, and doing horrible things to her that I'm still sure bothers her now years later. I don't even want to speculate, oh my god. The worst part was that he invited the incels over to join in. And the only thing that saved her was his mother coming home early. She had gotten his mom to take her home immediately after, not having any contact with him for the rest of the weekend after that. She avoided him whenever she came to school, finding me first thing. I cried with this girl, telling her how sorry I was. I asked her if she ever wanted to do anything about it, but she refused. She didn't want her mother to find out about what happened and was terrified of making it worse. The best advice I could give her was to stay away from him, to avoid him, and to get me if he tried anything. This advice wasn't needed, though. Apparently, he had taken her avoidance as a breakup, and by the time I saw him again, he had another girl with him, a fat little Neckbeard we'll call Hog, as they are her brethren, though I'm sure I'm insulting them with that description. Hog was laughing/squealing about something TB was saying, his lackeys standing there like bodyguards. I wasn't joking about him being the king Neckbeard in our part of the woods. He sees me, pulling Hog over with him, waving at me. I saw a frown mar Hog's face, jealousy boiling over as he sat next to me. "Oh, this is Hog," he gushed, pulling her down next to him and making the bench creak ominously. "I thought you were dating Yoda," I asked lightly, watching him roll his eyes. "She dumped me," he lied. "Over the weekend. Didn't give me a reason, just called and said it was over." Couldn't have anything to do with you pressuring her for sex, right? Or trying to fucking gangbang her? I asked, my voice going cold. TB paled while Hog stared at us, her piggy eyes alight with the news of this drama. "She didn't complain," he finally spouted. "She was okay with it and wanted to try having a threesome." He hissed, trying to sound convincing, but I shook my head. "Bullshit, dude. That girl was fucking terrified." I growled, making Hog swell up in anger. "It's not his fault she was a tease," she hissed, draping a fat arm around his shoulder protectively. Whatever face I made when she said this apparently scared TB, and he pushed her back and moved in front of her. "It's over thou know, right? We broke up. There's a miscommunication on both parts. I thought she was okay with it," he said in a rush, looking terrified. I huffed and looked away from him. Just stop being a fucking skis, TB. Seriously. If you find someone that's just as gross as you, then by all means, go for it, I said, looking back at Hog and watching her swell up even more with anger, but keeping her mouth shut. This is the last interaction we had for a while, as I couldn't stand the sight of him and his incels. Time moved on, and so did he. Hog was left behind a month later, who was replaced by Gopher. Gopher begat Barrel. Barrel begat Chipmunk. Chipmunk begat Snaggletooth, and Snaggletooth begat Emo Big Bird. If I listed the rest, we'd surpass the Bible. Just know that he made his way through the entirety of the freshmen and most of the sophomore girls that were in the weird mousy category. End of the year rolls around. He hunts me down, apologizing about what had happened with Yoda and telling me that he would apologize to her later as well. I pointed out that he hadn't all year, so why would he now? He gave me the side-eye, telling me that he hated me being disappointed in him and that he wanted to fix that and he missed us hanging out. Alarm bells rang louder than a drunk Quasimodo cutting loose at Notre Dame. Remember that important fact at the beginning? I'd always gotten a creepy vibe from TB, but I had hoped that he wouldn't be so disgusting as to take any sort of action. He gave a splotchy blush, his double chin quivering with anticipation. "You know, we used to hang out at lunch. We don't do that anymore. I miss that," he said quietly, side-eyeing me again, looking for my reaction. Swallowing back the vomit and bile that threatened to come up, I shrugged, telling him that I mostly hung out with my friends at lunch inside, which I did to get away from him. He seemed to lose steam here, weakly giving me a sad goodbye, turning back to watch me. I guess he was hoping I'd call him back. Nah, didn't happen. Last day of school rolls around with him stalking me, asking me to sign his yearbook, asking me to come hang out that summer, and so forth. I sidestepped as much as I could, making imaginary plans that I had to attend to get out of seeing him. I honestly couldn't imagine the stench and the sweltering heat of a southern summer. So, my senior year comes at last. Nothing amiss goes on at first, just him generally stalking me and being creepy. He acquired a new incel over the summer, telling me how he and the other two looked up to him, and that he had helped them become more social. All the while, the three of them looked like they would,
Oh no!
if given the chance, and if it would stand still long enough. Let's just say it was something horrible involving a dog. A month in, I start talking to a junior in one of my classes. Turns out he's semi-friends with TB, semi-meaning that he's really a nice guy and he can't actually tell TB to go the hell away, so he puts up with him, and he kind of feels sorry for him. Taking turns into flirting, we're tentatively discussing dating by October. Now at this time, my school used to have a yearly field trip to a fall festival kind of thing, and we agreed to meet up there, making it a small first date. As most of the teachers really didn't care what you did as long as nobody died and nothing was set on fire, so we'd have the freedom to do as we pleased. We'll call him Guardian Angel, or GA, as that was kind of what he was after this point. The day rolls around, and sadly, I was stuck on the bus, as I was a poor kid with no car. Sure enough, as I'm sitting there listening to my CD Walkman, yes, I'm that old, kids, shut up, I had one too, and hoping we can leave soon. I feel the bus shake and give way slightly. I look up, seeing TB heaving himself up the steps, swaying as he pushed his folds past the seats. I duck down, hoping he doesn't notice me, but today is not my lucky day. He tries to push my things aside and sit beside me, but I push them back, glaring at him. Leave it, I want to stretch out later, I told him. He gave a very put-upon sigh, but moved to the seat in front of mine, turning to face me, blasting me with the hot smell of summer garbage as he spoke. I was hoping I'd see you today, he proclaimed, a creepy look in his eyes. Do you want to hang out? I shook my head, taking off my headphones, knowing he wouldn't shut up and let me listen to my music. No, I got a date, I said, not even looking at him, shoved my Walkman back in my bag. I feel the seat jerk and look up to see that he had a death grip on it. What? I glanced around at the other people on the bus, blushing a little at the attention his outburst had caused. I said I have a date. I gritted out, glaring at him. With who? He demanded, a sheen of sweat covering his reddened face. With GA, I said, grinning smugly. Dude was hot, so I'm happy to brag. GA? He asked in disbelief, looking angrier by the second. He slammed himself back against the seat, too angry to speak at this point. He'd turn and glare at me every so often, and begin to mutter under his breath about jocks, life being unfair, and how women were too stupid to know who they needed, not what they wanted. Yeah, he said that. I'm remembering that he's your cousin, and I died a little inside. I shrugged, happy to have him shut up finally, pulled out my music once more as the bus pulled out heading to the festival. The entire bus ride was spent watching TB glare at me. He would say something, and I would point at my headphones, making him even madder. I knew that it would bite me in the ass later, but right now, I didn't care. I just didn't want to deal with him. TB finally turns around and stops glaring at me for the rest of the way, being one of the first to get off the bus when we get there, heaving his way past the others to get out. I take my time, seeing GA waiting for me outside. I also see TB and his minions glaring at GA a few yards away, TB muttering under his rancid breath the whole time. GA grins when I meet him, cocking his head back at TB. What's up with him? He looked pissed when he got out. I had slightly explained what I thought was going on with TB to him before. He agreed that it did indeed sound like he was trying to get with me, and that it was definitely disgusting. I second that. But once I explained what happened on the bus, GA shook his head, glaring back at TB and making him pale slightly. If that sick fuck tries anything else, you tell me, okay? He asked, getting a relieved nod from me. He grabbed my hand and led me off, both of us hoping to have a nice rest of the day. But alas, it was not to be. Well, it was mostly nice, I just like being dramatic. After about an hour of wandering around the booths and the rides, I noticed that we had some stalkers. Mostly because I turned around and saw TB trying to hide himself behind a telephone pole. Try being the operative word. Thinking that the fat goon was just being a creeper, I didn't tell GA. I was enjoying the day with him, and I didn't want to ruin it with TB and his creepiness. That was a mistake, boys and girls. I forgot about TB after a while, letting GA lead me around wherever he wanted to go. We ended up at a ride that I was too terrified to go on, and I told him that I'd wait for him so he could ride it. I waved off his protests about leaving me and shoved him towards the ride with a laugh, telling him I'd keep my feet on the ground and wait for him to come back. He kissed my cheek and ran off like an excited 5-year-old, leaving me behind a small building that held the generators for the rides. I sat down against it, happy to be in the shade for once that day, when an exceptionally large shadow fell in front of me, blocking my view of the ride. "Having fun?" TB asked snidely, glaring down at me. I went to stand up, and he moved closer, shoving his girth towards me to keep me from doing so. I moved to the side, jumped up in disgust, moving back away from him. "The fuck is your problem?" I asked, crossing my arms over my chest. He moved closer, his incels flanking him and turning to face the crowd, trying to block us from view. "My problem is that after all of this time of being there for you, being nice to you, you go and get with someone else," he grunted, inching closer. "Bruh, that's your cousin. You fucking nasty." "You sick fucker, we're family," I hissed. "Thank you." Arms going to my sides and my hands forming into fists, ready to fight him if I had to. He shrugged, trying to look pitiful, but coming off like a deranged ogre. "I've been in love with you for years." Gross. "And I don't care. I asked my mom, and she said it was alright. We're only third cousins. It doesn't count." Sweet home Alabama. I stared at him in utter disbelief, trying to comprehend the words that just came out of his mouth, and wondering what the fuck was going on. How the fuck am I gonna get out of this? TB, that's fucking disgusting. That's... "If you just give us a chance," he yelled over me, moving closer. "You just had to be a bitch, though, didn't you? You just had to go and whore yourself out to the first guy that would have you." Real classy. At this point, spittle was flying as he raged, and a vein popped up in his forehead. He moved faster than I thought him capable of, pinning me against the wall at my back. "I'll show you if you just give me a chance," he groaned, trying to lean in and kiss me.
Oh my god!
I lost it. I screamed, overwhelmed by the smell of rotten food wafting from his spittle-covered mouth when he jerked back and I was freed. GA had him on the ground, beating the shit out of him faster than I could blink. He got quite a few hits in before someone pulled him off TB, leaving the fat lump on the ground crying. The next hour was spent explaining to our teachers and the police what happened. Now this, boys and girls, will make some of you mad, but small-town politics and all that, you know. I'm well aware of them, and I'm sure this is probably going to be one of those things, so lay it on me, sister. No charges are pressed. Big fucking shock. As the cops said that GA had punished TB, and that they didn't see any reason to involve the law. The cop laughed off the fact that TB had attacked me, telling us all to behave ourselves, and left. I'm not surprised, I'm just disappointed. Yeah. My teacher, however, was pissed. He marched TB back to the bus, as well as his lackeys, telling me that if he even looked at me again, to let him know. TB would be getting suspended for 2 weeks, the most my teacher could get, but that he would personally put him on probation after he returned. The best part of all of it, said teacher, was also my cousin. While TB's mom was just as gross as him, his dad was not. He made a point to tell me in front of TB that he would be calling him personally. One of the perks of a small town. TB lost it at that point, sobbing his apologies and begging the teacher not to call his dad. Now the ending is a little bit happier. TB is AWOL for 2 months after that. Apparently after the suspension, his dad added his own punishment. Being an Army vet, he ran TB through a month and a half of boot camp, making him afraid to even piss without asking permission. He avoided me at school after that, running like his ass was on fire every time he'd see me. GA got the same treatment, except TB would cry sometimes in his vicinity, which I always wished he'd do around me too, but he never did, unfortunately. After school, I moved on. I still hear about TB from time to time. Apparently, I was not the only cousin he set his sights on. Oh, good lord. Using a couple of family reunions to try and pick up dates. I'm trying not to vomit. I'm not even joking. You know, the sad part is, I believe you. I know you're not. He's been through 4 marriages now and countless relationships, making me truly question humanity at times. I hope you all enjoyed my story, as well as my trauma, and that you got a few laughs out of it. But please remember, never, ever underestimate a neckbeard who is intent on being with you. While it's funny now, at the time, if it wasn't for GA, I don't really want to know what would have happened. So please, stay safe. That is a hell of a story, and yeah, that is absolutely some very good advice. Be fucking careful. Oftentimes on this channel, and several other neckbeard channels, we like to hear stories about creepy neckbeards and just kind of laugh at the weird shit that they do, but sometimes we forget that these fuckers can actually be really obsessively dangerous. Sounds like this motherfucker was one of them. I am so glad you got out of that situation and away from this asshole. Holy shit, man. And I know there's going to be a lot of you who are very angry about what happened with the police, but I have to be honest with you, as I said earlier, small-town southern politics. I'm not angry. I should be. But I've seen it so much that I'm mostly just disappointed. Yeah. I expected it. That's the sad part. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is, kids. The part that gets me is the fact that he just really wanted to keep it in the family. What a sick little weirdo. God, I hope he never made good on that. That's, I can hear the banjos already. But this was a hell of a story, and quite a long one, so thank you so much for sharing it. And thank you all for being here. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have your own story to send in, send it to r/Moonhorse Stories. That's my subreddit, and I'll definitely see it. If you'd like to support this channel, I have a Ko-Fi, which is like Patreon, but cooler. And I have a merch store, which is a merch store. I don't have anything to compare it to. It's got t-shirts, though, so you can check that out. I also do a live stream every Saturday, and there's a Discord channel server. Same thing, right? Doesn't matter. Anyway, all of these things and more are in the links below this video and every video, so I'll see you guys around. I love you all so very much, and seriously, be careful out there. There's some fucking creeps. Whew. I worry about you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.